We have time for 2 more questions. There's one there in the back. And while the mic is going, Molly, somebody who describes themselves as being from the far right of the auditorium, asks, as we see it, almost any current presidential candidate would be a great improvement over the Reagan-Bush crew. After reading several of your articles, we were curious about why you're so hard on Bill Clinton. Don't his strengths outweigh his weaknesses?
I actually have a defense of Bill Clinton, which I can do for you. I'll be happy to tap dance, but not entirely sure I've persuaded myself. The argument for Clinton is very simple. If you watched him campaign, you know this. He is a very good politician. This is a rotten year to be even a good politician. The case for Clinton is very simple, and you're going to have to bear with me a minute here. The last master politician we elected to the presidency was Lyndon Johnson. And I would submit to you that if you set aside the war in Vietnam, which I grant you is a lot like saying, if it hadn't been for the 100 Years' War, that would have been a swell century. If you set aside the war in Vietnam, Lyndon clearly would have gone down as one of the greatest presidents in the history of this country. And I also point out to you that that was a man who could not have passed any character test ever devised by the human imagination. What Lyndon Johnson knew how to do was how to get the whole giant Rube Goldberg machine of government to work. He knew which buttons to press and which levers to push and which knobs to pull, and he knew where to oil it, and he knew when to haul off and kick the goddamn thing to get it to clank around and turn out something that helped people. And no one we have elected since has known how to do that. George Bush may or may not know how to do it, but since he manifestly has no idea what he wants the damn machine to do, the point is moot. It is not a bad idea to elect someone with great political skills to the presidency.
We had a question up there.
Yeah, I'd like to ask Molly, do you think that Carol Moseley Braun or Lynn Yackel or either of them have a chance to get into office and to wield power in a way that won't require them to buy into the political system the way women politicians perhaps have had to do in the past?
I'm not sure about Moseley Braun. I know the Republicans think she's going to be easy to beat. I was just in Pennsylvania. I think Yackel is very bright and probably has a good shot there, although it's a tough race. The thing I would caution you all about, and this is a name that's not going to mean anything to you, but it seems to me that as a feminist, I have spent years fighting for equality for women. I think it is a mistake to assume superiority for women. Whenever I think that we would be better off if women ran the world, which of course I secretly do, I remind myself of Louise Epstein. Louise Epstein is on the Austin City Council, and she's just awful. And I quietly say to myself, Louise Epstein, and it keeps things in perspective.
Last question, I think, to both authors. If you could do a single thing to improve women's lives today, what would it be?
Okay, I'll take a crack. In fact, I used to fantasize about this, that it is really so difficult. If you were running the world and you could issue some ukase, or however you say that word, and have it obeyed, what would actually work for the good for everyone, and there's practically nothing. I used to think maybe the thing that would be most important or would actually work would be that people had to use their turn signals to indicate lane switches. But you know perfectly well if we made them do that, half of them would forget to turn the damn things off after they'd switched lanes. It'd just be more wrecks. I think the real women's issues are poverty and violence. And the rest of it is just all fluff. I mean, I don't care who opens doors, and neither does anyone else. I think the rest of it is just an effort to trivialize those very fundamental issues. And poverty is, to my mind, more addressable than violence. I mean, I think there is something we as a country can do about poverty. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. I don't think we need some grand new vision. We know what works, and to a large extent we know why the programs that didn't work didn't. And there are even some new ideas that should be tried. And one of them is Jack Kemp's. I mean, I'm game, what the hell. Violence, I'm more closer to despair about. I am a First Amendment feminist. I do not believe that we should try to outlaw pornography. And I'm prepared to defend that position, but I must say I am very, very troubled by the increasing violence in the society.
Susan, you want to take a crack at that?
I agree. It seems to me, though, that in order to get money into the hands of women, we first have to get political power into the hands of women. You know, and the same thing with tackling violence against women. I mean, the reason why the women's programs that assist women disproportionately are the ones that Reagan and then Bush first marked for the cutting room floor. Programs that conduct research on domestic violence or on rape were, again, the first ones to hit the cutting room floor. And that attitude is not going to change until we have non-Louise Epstein type women in positions of power. I'm not very hopeful that you know, we can leave it to the boys in office at the current time and hope that they will see the light.
On that note, I hate to say it, the time's up. Thank you very much for coming, and I want to say to Molly and Susan both that it's a tremendous kick in the pants for the staff of Mother Jones to have you here. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Should I do the money thing?
Yeah,
okay.
if you will.
Thank you so much for coming. As you know, Mother Jones is one of the last great alternative voices in American journalism, and I would point out to you that they're becoming precious few and are more needed than ever. And I think that the guts and the integrity and the irreverence of the magazine deserve support. I thank you all for coming, and thank you for whatever else you might be able to contribute.
Here is a reminder to join us Thursday morning for a live call-in program with Congressman James Traficant. The Ohio Democrat will talk about U.S. business dealings with the Saudi government. That's Thursday at 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 5 a.m. Pacific Time.